to Coral Castle TV. Thank you for watching.
And before we go any further, I'd like to invite you to please not like, not subscribe, not share, not do anything. Just watch the video, you know? There's no merch. Sorry, I don't have an OnlyFans site. Sorry, I don't, I have a Patreon that has, there's morgues that have more life than my Patreon. Like, I don't care because I'm not doing this for that reason. I want to do this because I want to talk to you, because I want to reach people, because I care about science, I care about truth, and I care about it way more than money or attention. Except for your attention, of course. I'd like you to take what I say and consider it, and if you find something of value, keep it and pass it on to someone else. And I think that's a very fair thing to ask. So let's talk UFOs. So what we see are craft that exhibit characteristics that we can't explain, right? We can't explain them. We can't catch them. We can't even engage them militarily. What we are witnessing, what we are experiencing collectively as a species, is a phenomenon in which part of the population is in complete denial and the other part is informed. Now, why did I make the video? What makes me such a expert? Well, I think the fact that I'm a theoretical physicist and I'm an experiencer, an abduction experiencer, for multiple decades, and that I've had at least 30 to 40 sightings in my life. A lot of them are documented. You see them on the other video that I have on this channel. And I think this gives me a unique perspective to be able to talk about the idea of physics and UFOs and how they're related. I think that I'm kind of the perfect person for that. Also because I'm an objective person. I'm an objective observer of things. And this is not my personal claim. This is backed up by the evidence of my books and my discoveries and my own personal scientific breakthroughs as it happens to apply to research of scientific subjects and scientific phenomena. So I don't feel like I'm talking out of school here. I feel like this is something that needs to be done by more people than just myself. And that the more we talk about this and the more that we deal with it as a real phenomenon, the better off we will be collectively. And I think that that is an important thing to do. Yeah. So we have to talk about why are physicists so reluctant and so reticent to admit the reality of UFOs? And why is the military so reticent? Why are people reticent to admit the reality of UFOs? I think it is because that there are arguments that are made, which are false arguments, which I'm going to address, but there are arguments that make people who are inexperienced or uninformed suspend their disbelief. It makes them more comfortable staying in the lane of just shrug it off. So let's talk about some of those. One of the things I hear people commonly say is, well, there's no proof. Oh, there's no proof. Oh my gosh. This is the laziest argument. Anyone who says there is no proof of UFOs or of extraterrestrial beings may not actually be of this planet, because the overwhelming amount of evidence from every single kind. I mean, you want to talk about what? You want to talk about photographic evidence, video evidence, trace evidence left behind. You want to talk about witnesses, abduction experiencers who have come forward and shared their testimony, military encounters. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on of evidence. Now, for some people, no amount of evidence will ever be proof. Now, that's not my problem. That is not reality's problem. That is their problem, right? So we cannot be dismissive of a subject that we have not properly researched. Anybody who says that there's no proof for extraterrestrial life simply just is not looking, because you can spend the rest of your life doing nothing but reading about encounters with UFOs. And this doesn't go back 40 years, 50 years. This goes back thousands of years. Eric von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods, very famously and profoundly, I think, discovered that we were misinterpreting our encounters with superior beings. And we were calling them gods because we didn't have a context for what they were. So we had to place them in this category of immortal, all-powerful beings because 2,000 years ago, they are. You know what? Even today, they are. And I want to talk more about that later too. But okay. So there is an overwhelming amount of evidence, pictures, videos, trace evidence, witness testimony, abductions. There's an unlimited amount of data on the subject. So when people say that there's no proof, their threshold for evidence is too high. That's really what it is they are unscientifically skeptical. There comes a point where even if you can't reach out and touch something, you have to say it's there, whether you can touch it, lay hands on it or not. And so then we go to the next stupidest argument in the whole world, which is they're ours. These impossible crafts are our secret projects that we are reverse engineering them. And I'm sorry, I need to take a drink on that one. Slanja. But no, they're not ours either. And there's some very good reasons why they're not ours. For one, these things do perform impossible maneuvers. They do things. They'll take a 25G right angle turn at like 1,000 miles an hour, like these impossible aerobatic maneuvers. And more than that, they can go from the water, they can go from underneath the ocean, whoop, out into space. Transmedium motion, with no seeming effects on the craft or the operators or on its speed. These things can go from space to water. They can go from space to the atmosphere to the depths of the ocean. We have nothing that can do that. And the reason is simple, is because we cannot conquer inertial forces. Pilots, astronauts are trained to withstand a certain amount of G-forces, and they even have special equipment that helps them stay conscious so they don't experience what's called G-lock. And it's the loss of consciousness, which anywhere from 9 to 11 Gs seems to be about the maximum a human being can withstand, and they cannot perform at those high levels of G-force or inertia. They can simply exist. That's about as close as they can get. So when something is performing in a way which defies this very simple, basic concept of human physiology and our current misunderstanding of physics, it's not ours. When we have something that can go transmedium, it's not ours. When we have something that doesn't have propellers or wings or jets, it's not ours. When we are chasing it because it's in our airspace, it's not ours, is it? I mean, use your common sense. Why would we be trying to shoot down our own craft? Why would we be trying to track our own craft? Why would our own aircraft, military aircraft, you're saying? Military secret aircraft performing unsafe maneuvers in violation of every law of our airspace for a test? I'm sorry. You say what you want. The military doesn't work that way. There are very strict laws about airspace, and there are reasons for it. It's for everyone's safety. It's for everyone's concern, and they can't have some renegade and some souped up hot rod out running around in the middle of air traffic. No, that is how disaster is caused, and that isn't how you would treat your test craft. And also, I mean, honestly, we are witnessing what our ancestors witnessed thousands of years ago, right? We are witnessing an impossible kind of science right before our eyes. And so this is why physicists are so loath to admit that these craft are extraterrestrial beings, because if they are extraterrestrial beings and they have traveled here and they really are performing these impossible maneuvers with these craft that appear to be impossible to build or come close to, well, then now you kind of have to admit what I've been saying all along, which is that physics is wrong. It's fraudulent. It's corrupt. It is bankrupt. It is bereft of value. I don't know how else to say it. It is completely off. And these craft and those beings expose that truth. To say that these craft and these beings are doing something which we find impossible means that we're wrong. We're wrong. And we can't be wrong, can we? No, that's our problem. We have a lack of humility in science. We have become the temple of egos. And it is nonsense. And I have, in a very short time, been able to point out enormous, huge, glaring flaws that really rip physics apart. But if you don't believe me, believe them, because they're doing it. I'm a guy on a channel just talking. They're doing it every day around this planet. Now, physics is so wrong that it can't even recognize superior science when it sees it. How's that strike you? Every scientist in the world should say, these appear to be real. They should investigate it. They should investigate it. They should look at all of the evidence, weigh it, because what scientist isn't interested in superior scientific discovery? What scientist isn't interested in just acknowledging another species? This is the height of being closed-minded. And it is not a good look for us as human beings. The older civilizations had much more humility than we do. They drew giant pictograms on the ground. They welcomed them. They called them space brothers, space teachers. They honored them. They revered them. They wanted to be like them. They wanted to be more like this superior being. They were able to recognize a superior being in terms of technology and evolution and said, we aspire to be that. They asked for nothing. They simply welcomed them as another people. And how do we behave now? We have a little tiny bit of science under our belt, and we want to walk around acting like we are the kings and queens of the universe, that we have a real good bead on things, that we understand that nothing is out of our reach. Is that right? Is that right? Well, if that's true, then how come our greatest military technology is looks like Tinker Toys next to these guys? We have no shot. But what do? We, instead of welcoming them, what do? We send the jets out. We try to engage them. You know, countries, Russia said, shoot them down if you can. This is how we treat them now. We do not welcome them. We treat them as hostile. Yeah. We have a superior species that has been coming here our entire history, who used to be welcome on this planet. And now we turn the tables and say, oh, we have planes and stuff, so now we're going to chase you. And we are nothing more than a minor nuisance to them. The smartest human being, I'm going to quote my friend Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen, the smartest human being is as big a threat to them as is its smartest termite. We are nothing compared to them. Obviously, because their technology is so foreign to us that we don't know how anything works. And to make the supposition that we have their craft, and I think that we do have craft. I think this is, a no-brainer, because they've been coming here for thousands of years. And we have really only had the ability to retrieve them and study them for the last 80 years. And if there is one constant in the universe, it appears that it is Murphy's Law. That anything that can go wrong will. And so, even though these beings are extremely more advanced intellectually, scientifically, technologically, they're not immune from Murphy's Law. And so, given enough time, given enough chances, there will be incidents. And I'm sure that these incidents have happened over the course of thousands of years on this planet. But we've only had the ability to recover them and study them for about 80 years. And what are we doing, honestly? I mean, oh, we have a craft and we reverse engineer it. Let me explain something to you. The science of today, compared to 1,000 years ago, is unrecognizable, isn't it? 1,000 years ago. If I went back in time and I had a Bic lighter, okay, and I took a Bic lighter out of my pocket 1,000 years ago and I held it up to human beings and I did this, I would be Lord Zippo Bickworthy. There would be statues of the Master of Fire. And then after it ran out of fuel and I threw it away or just gave it to somebody, they would sit there and say, oh, I don't know how it works. It's magic. He must be the key to how it works. They would have no idea what this is. If I gave it to them and said, here, go make another one. 1,000 years ago. Go make another Bic lighter. One of these. The technology you take for granted every day. This guy. This simple little thing. They'd never be able to make one. They wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't understand the technological processes involved. They wouldn't understand the chemistry. They wouldn't understand the mechanics. They wouldn't understand. 1,000 years ago, human beings 1,000 years ago would not understand the function of a fucking Bic lighter. Okay? Now, you want to tell me that an advanced species with a brain half again as large as ours, their best technology, and we're just going to figure that out, huh? Okay. So, excuse me. And by the way, I'm aware that I'm ranting here, and I'm fine with it. I hope you are too. I hope at least you find it entertaining, if it's not educational. But we have to start embracing reality here. I mean, okay, I'll give you another comparison of how woefully out of our depth we are when it comes to this being a secret military project or us reverse engineering one of these things. Okay. If you drove a Buick Regal into the jungle and you crashed it into a tree. Okay? And it was discovered by chimps, who are 99% of us. Chimps are 98 to 99% similar to human beings. That's how close they are. It's very close. Now, we ram a Buick Regal into a tree in the jungle, and it's found by chimps. How long do you think it's going to take those chimps to recreate a Buick? They find it. They have full access to it. They get the smartest chimps in the whole jungle to come and beat on the hood of this thing. How many Buick Regals are they going to make? None. Zero. Ever. They will no more have a clue how that works than a man on the moon. There won't be any context for them. They don't know what they're looking at. They don't know the manufacturing. They don't know the chemistry. They don't even know what that is. They just know it crashed in their part of the jungle. And they can go over and beat on it with a stick or, honk the horn or something. But, I mean, other than that, they're not going to get really any farther in their Buick Regal research, are they? And it's because that brain size matters. Look, size matters. Don't anybody tell you different. Especially when it comes to brains. Now, where they are, chimps are 99% similar to us, we do have larger craniums. We have a more expansive brain pan, which gives us a cognition and reasoning and problem-solving skills that they don't have. And one of our traits is the ability to organize. Yeah. Now, we are 99% similar to chimps, but we have bigger brains. Now, imagine a species that is completely foreign to us and also has massive, huge brains, like twice the size of ours. You cannot be as smart as someone with a larger brain than you. You can't. You can't. They have parts of their brain which are probably developed in a way which doesn't exist in human beings. So therefore, we are limited in our capacity to understand. Military interactions. Why is the military reticent to acknowledge the reality of UFOs? Well, I think on some levels there are practical reasons for this, and I don't think that it's hard to understand once it's said out loud. But there is a definite national security issue with everyone in the world knowing that you have literally out of this world technology, that could start a world war for that technology, because as we know on this planet, whoever has the greatest technology is the one who runs things, and everyone wants to be that person, and they want to be that person sometimes at any cost. And so this is a liability. But they're not so clever. I mean, they're not so clever. I mean, military ended Project Blue Book in 1969. Okay? It said, we no longer investigate UFOs. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me make sure I got this right. You're telling me the military, whose job is to protect the country, is no longer interested in anything that seems to threaten the country. Okay. Then what are you doing over there? What are you doing? Because if the Air Force isn't trying to protect our airspace, then what the fuck are you doing? You better be investigating UFOs. You better be. If I tell you that there's a giant triangle hovering over my backyard, you better get your ass over here right now. Right? That's their philosophy. But what they didn't stop investigating. They just stopped answering to the taxpayers, because immediately after Project Blue Book closed down, MUFON was started. Wouldn't you know it? right at the same time that Project Blue Book closed, the civilian operation of MUFON opened up. And MUFON is nothing more than the civilian information collecting arm of the military. And I know this because I am a former MUFON investigator, and I quit once I found out what the scam was. And the scam is this: everybody in a position of leadership in MUFON is former military or former military intelligence. And they collect information and then they pass it up the chain. There is no investigation. You see, investigation means that you're trying to come to a conclusion or an outcome, that you wish to solve something. To investigate something means to look for answers. They don't look for answers. They already have the answers. What they want is the information, you see. And so that's why I chose to part ways with this particular organization. But the military does investigate this. Of course they do. They would be so negligent in their duties to not care about craft that no one can identify invading our airspace. That is the biggest betrayal of our country by the military ever. So I don't believe that. I don't. So they can't disclose that they have this technology because they don't want to start a world war. They don't want this falling into the wrong hands. But the funny thing is that I bet there's all these countries that have UFOs, okay? But none of them seem to understand it, because what's NASA doing? Well, NASA is still basically doing the equivalent of putting a man on top of a firecracker and lighting the fuse and shooting them up in the air. I mean, we're still using rockets. We're doing what we did when we supposedly went to the moon, using rockets, old school Flash Gordon rockets. Are you serious? Why would we even need NASA if we had craft? Why would we waste them on the military? Well, we could be traveling. We could be going to the moon. We could be going to Mars and all this. But no, we're using rockets for that because that's the best technology we have. Because it's the best technology we can understand. You're telling me we've had these all this time? What, Roswell happened in, the 40s, right? 47? And we had craft that whole time and we're still using fucking rockets? Yeah. You know why? Because we literally do not have the intellectual capacity to understand the technology that we possess. That's the way it is. We have to understand that we have limitations. We're like, well, if they can do it, we can do it. No, it doesn't work that way. When someone has a brain that is twice the size of yours, who comes from a line or a civilization maybe a billion years older than you, who has that big of a head start, who has that much more equipment, who has that much more technology. No way. We're as foreign from each other as you could possibly be. There is no bridging that distance except just through the natural evolution of time. What we want, what we're trying for, militarily, scientifically, is a shortcut. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a shortcut. You can't steal evolution. You can, us chimps, we can beat on the hood of that Buick all we want, and we're never going to drive it. We're never going to build another one. Our chances of being able to do that are zero. Just like the chimps in the jungle with a Buick. There's no chance. You could leave it there for a billion years, If they're still chimps, they're never going to get it. And as long as we're still humans, we're never going to understand this technology. There needs to be an evolution. There needs to be a natural climb instead of an artificial shortcut. We're trying to use this as cliff notes for science, for physics. But we want to hang on to the old stuff that's wrong, and then wonder why we can't understand the new stuff that's so foreign to us. And it's just nonsense. The whole argument is complete nonsense. It's like if you gave what was I heard somebody say? Well, he said if you gave, I think it was Stanton Friedman, who said if you gave Christopher Columbus a nuclear submarine and you said, here you go, Chris, here's a nuclear submarine and here's an unlimited budget, just build me another one of these. Never get done, ever, because there is science that is involved in the manufacturing process, in the material, making the materials, understanding the technology that is being made, understanding the scientific principles that it is made on, understanding the workings, the problems, troubleshooting. I mean, there are so many facets of this that are unreachable, that there is no amount of time that will ever generate true results. Not without help. Not without help. And even with help, we're still lost. We're still chimps. Do you understand that the human brain has limitations? Okay, we like to think that it doesn't, but it does. People only use 10% of their brain. Yeah. Whatever you say. But the truth is, even if they only use 10% of their brain, their 10% is a lot larger. Their 10% is unbelievable. So we don't know about our own brains really enough to be able to say that. People say that cliche thing, oh, well, we only use 10% of their brain. Yeah. Which 10%? Show me. No, it's just a thing people say. But we do have limitations. For instance, we have limitations in our perception, right? We know this. We know that we can't see in certain spectrums, that we can't hear in certain frequency ranges. But we don't accept that we can't think at certain levels, which is true. We also can't perceive at certain speeds. This is an important one, I think, that we can't perceive things that are certain speed being slow, or if something is too fast. Something too slow or too fast does not get perceived by us. So therefore, it is rendered invisible. These craft, anything that goes faster than about 10,000 miles an hour, which is apparently easy for those guys, our upstairs neighbors, our sky buddies, we won't notice. We literally do not we lack the capacity to comprehend anything that happens faster than 10,000 miles an hour. It's like it didn't happen. It's invisible. There's no there's no nothing. We don't even know it happened because it's over before our brain can even register it. That our eyes, our brain, our nervous system, our even our psychology, really, is not prepared for the type of technology and the type of intellect that we are dealing with. And we would be much better off being humble, staying in our lane, minding our own business, and I think maybe being a bit more welcoming to our sky buddies, because there is no fighting with them. They apparently aren't interested in fighting us. I mean, who wants to beat up the littlest, shortest kid in school? Like, we're the lowest one in rank. We are probably the least intelligent sentient being in the entire universe. We are babies. We are babies. And we only were born, and I always imagine this, that we were born the day that Yuri Gagarin went into space. First man in space, Yuri Gagarin. And that was when we left the womb. For the very first time we left the womb. We were born as a species on that day. And that's how old we are. We are newborn infants. And we are staring out the window into a universe that we don't understand at all. And we can walk around the playpen and pretend like we know everything. And then when the adults show up, you get humbled real fast, or at least you should. And we don't understand this science. We don't understand the first thing about this science. And the descriptions of the technology, the description of the materials, there's nothing. If you talk about just the description of the materials alone that we have supposedly gleaned from UFO craft, we could do, we're like, ooh, this is tinted. Okay, we can make like night vision out of that. Well, how's that thing run? Oh, no, we don't know that. Like, it's a completely sealed thing. It appears to be organic, but it's electrical. We have no idea how it works. If you touch it, it lights up, but that's about it. Like, they have no idea. Like, they're like, oh, let's get some physicists in here to look at this so they can shrug their shoulders too. Or die messing with something that they don't understand. Those are your options. Shrug or die when it comes to this technology. That's how bad it is for us when we try to steal something that doesn't belong to us. I mean, that's what it is. You can put whatever kind of ethical spin on that you want to, but really, we recovered these craft and we are reverse engineering them, and we are trying to steal technology for our own use. You have to wonder, why are we allowed to have them? Right? Like, these are super advanced beings. You think they don't have AAA? You think they can't come get that craft if they wanted to? Do you know why we have these craft? Do you know why we're allowed to have them? Look at them. Because we're chimps. We're chimps. They're like, yeah, if you crash a Buick there, just leave it. Like, don't even bother to go get it, because the chimps aren't going to understand it. It's not like they're going to build another one and come after us, right? You know, they are so not threatened by us. That should tell you how smart we are to them, that they're not even threatened by us. We're a nuisance. We're a minor nuisance to them. They show up in airspace, and here comes these jets, and they're just like, gone, faster than you can blink or see or even comprehend. Gone. Good luck. Like, we're nothing to them. That's why we even have the craft in the first place, because they know we have zero hope in hell of ever doing anything with it. So it can stay here. It might as well be an interstellar junkyard. You know, if everyone on the planet had one of these craft in their backyard, we'd still be nowhere, because we're chimps. The smartest of us. Look, I have a genius IQ. I'm a member of Mensa. Chimp. I'm a chimp. And who gives a shit if you're the world's smartest chimp when you're dealing with this level of physics, this level of science, this level of technology, this level of intellect? It should humble you. And we should not think so much of ourselves that we're super geniuses who could figure out anything, or that, we're capable of performing intellectual feats of prowess that are not even dreamt of. Not even dreamt of. And also, we're not using it. What we have these craft, and we're reverse engineering them. We have them, and we just, fly them around and do nothing with them in our own airspace. Yeah, we don't use it for space travel. We're saving this just for the military, and just for the military to what? What? What's the plan there? There is no plan, because there are no government-built UFOs. If there are, they don't work anything like them. They can make something that looks like a UFO. They have a plane that looks like the black triangular craft. What is it called? The Aurora or something. They're like, oh, yeah, see, this explains all the sightings. Well, let me tell you something. I saw a black triangle. I've seen it more than once, and it's not a plane. It's not an aircraft. It doesn't have jets. It doesn't look like that plane. I know what it looks like because I've seen it with my own eyes. Flying right over my head at 5 miles an hour. I could have hit it with a softball underhand. It was so close to me and so slow. We don't have anything like that. And don't give me secret government project, because there's no secret government science that's going to build it. You understand? You're telling me that the best models we have are Newton, Einstein, and Hawking, but somewhere hidden away in a building are a bunch of guys who are way smarter than that, who are working on other stuff, and the rest of the world doesn't know about. I mean, come on. I mean, at what point does your delusion break down, man? We need to put some deductive reasoning in here, a little bit of logic. And logic says that we are woefully, shamefully out of our depth when it comes to UFOs. And this means that here's the other part of the military problem, is that the military does not want to acknowledge the existence of UFOs because they don't want to have to admit that they are powerless over them. They are worried, I think, that this would cause psychological discomfort among the population to know that we aren't safe and snug at night in our beds because the military is watching over us. And it's already true, but I can see that also as another reasonable concern, that they don't want people to panic that the military is powerless over something. And they are when it comes to UFOs, but they don't want to admit that. And I can understand that. What I don't appreciate is having my experiences or other people's experiences treated as though there's some kind of delusional fever dream, when I am rooted right here in stark reality every day. Believe me. And my feet are very flat on the ground. I am a logical person. In fact, I am gifted in this way when it comes to logic. I have a very high level of deductive reasoning. And I don't like nonsense. I don't like fairy tales. I don't like folklore. And you can say, I don't believe in UFOs, but it doesn't matter. You can say, I don't believe in oxygen. You're still going to keep breathing, man. And whether you believe in them or not, they're still going to keep coming here. They're still going to keep existing. They're still going to keep just absolutely bashing our own science in our face every time we see it. And we are powerless to stop them from whatever they want to do. Now, you got to get a hold of that thought. You got to be okay with it, because they don't seem to be, antagonistic toward human beings. We're antagonistic toward them. That seems to be the calling card of human beings now, is we are antagonistic toward them. We want to chase them away. We want to shoot them down. We want to, retrieve their crashes. We want to take apart their bodies. We want to, we are cannibals. We are cannibals. And they are not even antagonistic toward a planet of cannibals. So I think that we're, for the most part, pretty damn safe. And we can drop our antagonism toward our sky buddies, and we can show them some proper respect and reverence like they used to be shown. And perhaps we could build a relationship with them that isn't based on technology. Imagine that. Imagine just getting to know beings from other places without there being a price, without there being an agenda. And it's keeping our soul as a species. So, I hope that you find that these thoughts are interesting. I hope that they stir up thoughts of your own on this matter. Feel free to share them in the towel section below. Keep it fair, keep it above the belt. Good vibes only. is all I'm interested in. If you post something negative, you troll, whatever, I'm not going to respond to you anymore. I'm just going to delete you. Bye. Flick. You're gone. You don't exist. Hide you from the channel. Boom, boom, boom. It's all easy. So just keep it positive, keep it fun, but also keep it real. And that's what I'm trying to do when it comes to physics and UFOs. So thank you for letting me get that out of my system. That bee's been in my bonnet for a while, buddy. But take it for what you will. But as a person who has both experienced it and studied it, and as a theoretical physicist, think about the things I've said and compare them to the arguments and explanations you hear elsewhere. And I think you're going to find that a lot of it is a load of horseshit. That there is a lot of that out there, and it is meant to muddy the waters. It is meant to confuse the situation. It is meant to get people to shrug it away. But what we really need to do is be steely-eyed realists, and we need to embrace reality, and we need to treat it carefully, because the future depends on it. This is RL Pool. You've been watching Coral Castle TV.
This has been another edition of Coral Castle TV.